Well, 20 years ago, none of us knew what cybersecurity was. Now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's getting bigger and bigger every single day. We'll talk to a cybersecurity expert next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show. Well, the U.S. is spending countless billions of dollars trying to protect data from cybersecurity thieves, but the thieves tend to spend all night dreaming up new ways to hack into our computers and steal our data. To talk about that, John Ansbach, he's with AON. He's a leading cybersecurity expert. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks for having me.
So I know nothing about computers. I can turn them on, right? So why is it the best and brightest minds in America can't figure out a way to win the cyber war?
Well, I think to give a lot of people a lot of credit, I think there are a lot of companies and IT professionals that do a really good job building what we call cyber resilience. But the reality is that cyber attack is a business in a lot of areas around the world, in Eastern Europe, in North Korea, and in Russia and other places. This is where cyber thieves make their living. And they have oftentimes unlimited resources. They have lots of time, lots of money to basically launch these cyber attacks against American enterprise. So, it's not, I think, a question of being able to solve it, but it is an ongoing fight. And I think more and more companies are putting together teams and resources to be better and better at every day.
I've got to believe that your business is just blowing up right now. I mean, you had all of these people that their systems may have been buttoned down when they were at work, but then you send all the employees home. That creates a nightmare for guys like you, doesn't it?
You've really hit on it. I will tell you, in the last year, let's say in 2019, we were certainly busy. And you get sort of a run rate of stuff. You get a lot of email compromise, the things that your audience would know. The phishing email comes in and it's a wire fraud attempt. You see a lot of that. Last year we saw a lot of ransomware attacks too, where somebody locks down your system and then won't give you access back until you pay them in cryptocurrency. And then you roll into 2020 and things were still building at a pretty rapid pace. But as you say, in March, all of a sudden, a lot of our clients took what was a 15 or 20% remote workforce and made it 90% remote. And I'm talking about in a very short period of time. I have one client in particular that took 1,500 people in a period of about 2 weeks and deployed them to work remotely. And so now you're talking about 1,000 or 1,500 laptops. You're talking about technology for remote access that wasn't designed to support that heavy load. And also you've got people who are sharing personal devices. They're working on insecure home Wi-Fi networks. So yeah, it is not a good setup. We're getting better, I think, generally. But we've been super, super busy over the last, counting now, 6 months, more so than I think we've ever been.
Yes, and you do have the heart of a teacher. We've got a picture of you teaching over at SMU. Is that something you like to do? I
love to do that. The folks at SMU Law have been kind enough to allow me to teach a little bit to the 2 L's and 3 L's. A lawyer myself, I'm certainly near and dear to my heart. So that's a really, that's a great picture, and it's a lot of fun, and the students seem to really like it. And we get to talk about a somewhat non-traditional role for lawyers. Lawyers tend to think of, I'm going into the courtroom or I'm doing transactions. Cybersecurity is a legal function as well, and we love to talk about that.
And you have an interesting career path. You told me you didn't start out in cybersecurity.
That's true. I got out of law school. I started trying car wreck cases and personal injury cases. Found my way to a really wonderful law firm here in town, Barron & Budd, and did asbestos work, supporting victims of asbestos and asbestos cancer. Ultimately found my way into in-house, and then before I came to AON Cyber, was general counsel for a large technology company, a B2B firm here in town. And one of the things we needed to do was build an information security program and build cyber resilience. And so either I missed a meeting or raised my hand at one and fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, you fell into the right spot. I know you're also called on by the media quite a bit to do interviews. We have a little clip of you on Channel 8 that we're going to roll while you're talking about that. I think it's so important to use the media to get the message out, because so many innocent people inside a company can really create havoc, can't they?
Well, I tend to call it evangelizing, and certainly one of the reasons that we do these shows. I mean, everybody's got business development reasons to do it, but the reality is we're trying to preach the message. And cybersecurity is certainly a technical issue. There's no doubt about it. There are technical tools that are employed for cyber attack, but at the heart of it, it's a people issue. There would be no cybercrime if there wasn't a victim that falls for or clicks a phishing link or inadvertently discloses information to bad guys. So being on your show or being on the news or giving speeches at least affords me and affords my company the opportunity to get the message out and to preach a little bit about the things you can do to sort of build that resilience and resist attack.
And talk about some of the new scams that we're starting to see. I mean, like you mentioned, you inherited $2 million from Nigeria. Most people see through that.
Right.
But what else are you encountering?
Well, the evolution of this is really profound. Years ago, you'd get a Nigerian prince email, and 99 out of 100 people would go, "Okay, that's not me," right? Today's certainly phishing attacks much more sophisticated. They look very much like the real thing. They use graphics that are from Microsoft or from LinkedIn. I mean, they use that information. And then, of course, right now, many of the campaigns are COVID related. So, if you're sitting in your house and you are maybe not technically sophisticated, and you get an email that says somebody in your neighborhood has been identified as COVID positive, we're doing a tracing, please click here for more information. I mean, a lot of people, particularly less sophisticated or unfortunately elderly folks, will click on that because there's a lot of fear and concern right now. So, by one account, we saw there was a report of a 600% increase in phishing attacks in March and April that were COVID related. So we are certainly seeing campaigns that are more sophisticated and taking advantage of the situation.
Give some advice on passwords, because I think obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not a good password, or password is not a good password. But is there a formula to create a password that you can remember? Yeah.
So people need to understand there are available programs to crack passwords within seconds. It's not a question of somebody sitting over a computer going, "Oh, I'm going to try and guess it." That's not how that works. They literally use a program that just runs a bunch of passwords at something and eventually figures it out. And so if you're using a 4-character or a 6-character or even an 8-character password that has anything to do with your name, your kids' names, your pet, your social media, likely not going to be enough. I like to recommend passphrases. Passphrases are certainly 12, 14, 16 characters. They have special characters, but they're things that are meaningful to people, and so they're not easy to guess. They won't be accessible by an algorithm. So passphrases are really the way to go. And you've probably heard there are password vaults that you can also use, like LastPass and some other things. Those are really good too. They'll even generate new passwords each time for use, which means they're really sophisticated. And then if you can layer on top of that something called multi-factor authentication. So you're not just using your username and password, but then you're required to kick in like a text messaged code, or on your phone there'll be an authenticator with a code. So if you can do a good passphrase that you change maybe every 90 days, and multi-factor authentication, it's going to be a lot more security for people.
Outstanding. Well, John, thank you so much. You're going to have to come back.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we'll close out with the website. It's AON/Cyber Solutions. Thank you so much, John. You've been great.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.